I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to thank you for the opportunity for us all to be here with a new group of people now. And we just ask for a blessing over the next 2 years, I guess it would be, as we think through things, come up with ideas, and try and do things better for Adams County. We thank you for all the blessings that you've given us. In your name, amen.
You're a disciple of Stephen Covey, who says, first things first. So let's begin with the reorganization that we have before we proceed with the minutes. Open for nominations for the presidency and vice presidency. So
We'll do the president first, and we'll separately do the vice president.
I'll nominate Dennis for president.
Second. Wait a minute, who was that? Who said? I heard a couple of, who got the first second? Was it Corey?
Sir.
Who? Sir. What? I heard a couple of things.
any other nominations, we'll have to close the nominations otherwise.
Make a motion to close nominations.
Make a motion to close nominations for president.
Second. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Win in a landslide.
Appreciate your vote of confidence. Now we're nominations for the position of vice president.
Did we officially vote for that?
We voted to close
I
nominations.
think we need to actually vote. We motion, we nominated, the motion, we second. But then we had that, see if there's any more on that nominations, so we actually need to vote on Dennis Quinn as president.
We already have a motion and a second.
Yes, we need a vote. All in favor of Dennis Quinn being president? Aye.
Now for the position of vice president. Open for nominations.
Who's been vice president? You.
Me.
I'll nominate Corey for vice president.
I'll second.
Second.
Motion to close the nomination.
We need to vote first, right?
Can we do it?
Any vice president nominations? Otherwise, motion to close nomination.
Motion to close. Second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now, we already have a motion, second and vice president, first, all in favor?
Aye.
Now they did, they didn't do that. But now we're good. And you can just keep running the meeting.
Okay. We're into the meeting itself, and we'll proceed with the approval of minutes from the December meeting. Any questions, additions, or corrections?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Brad and John?
Good. You and I are the ones who say that. You're gonna stay.
Moved and seconded.
Get out of here, buddy.
I'll put a quarter in the jar.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
All right.
I guess you'll take them in order?
Well, who's doing
Yeah. I mean,
the review?
Shannon's up next. I've got a copy of it.
Oh, you got that?
Shannon? You're up.
You're next on the list for wage review update.
Wait review?
Oh, that was our reminder
It's been a month now. Okay,
for,
remind me.
so in December, we had a wage review meeting that we forgot to bring up in December's meeting. And the wage review was for, the secretary position in the public defender's office. We changed the name of the position to legal assistant as was recommended in that meeting. And then the recommendation was to go from an NE 3 band to an NE 4 band. And you guys have a 144 for that, and it would be effective January 21st.
List. What's
What do we need to do?
I was on that, and we're all in agreement, so I guess motion to approve, right? That's what we need. I'll make that motion.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One of the first things we need to do at the beginning of every new year is to committee appointments by way of board members to the committees that they've been on, or if you want to change to or from. Have you circulated the?
Julie Marie has sent out an email. The two, I'm not sure that Keith, I don't know if Keith was on anything. That was on solid waste, we gave that up to that. So I don't know what other one he was on. But you'll need to, what was it?
He was on Park.
Park and Rec. So we need somebody to be on the Park and Rec, and we need somebody to be, regional sewer district as a council appointment. But we're also going to have appointments that you will do today. And that will be the PIA board for Don Kuhn, alcoholic beverage board, Toby Speller, and Julie Marie as council attorney. Those three appointments. Are those only three appointments you remember?
Yes, those are the only three I have.
So those three will have to also be done.
I actually also have the regional sewer district, I have a blank one for that because
Yeah.
I don't know who's to be appointed.
Right. So as far as council members, if any committees that anybody is on, if you want to do any switching or whatever, you can discuss that. But the ones I think that need filled, that will do that is Park and Rec and solid waste.
What time is it on these meetings? I mean,
When do you guys meet, like, for past
6 o'clock, second Monday of every month.
Okay.
6 to 8.
that work, right? 6 o'clock on the second Monday?
do we want to start off with Bob? Those were two of your bets.
No, Park and Rec was Keith's. Okay.
That was Keith.
Solid waste was that. But I don't know if she was on anything else or not.
Yeah, Tony, I've been on solid waste as commissioner, I'll volunteer for that. It's all right.
She would have been on the wage board too.
The wage appeals was another one that she was on.
So we need that one too. That one meets every 4 times a year now. Now it's more organized, and it's in the morning before council meetings. And then Stan, so it's me and Stan and one more council member.
And you,
I'd take you to place on that.
How do you want to, which one?
So wage appeals.
Yes, hold
we nominating, it was just consensus.
on. I was hoping there'd be consensus, as well. I mean, obviously if some, if 2 or more people want the same thing, then they have to arm wrestle for it or something. But if nobody else has an issue with Bob and wage appeals, we can put in for that. If nobody has a problem with Rex, and solid waste, we can put in on that. Then we still have Park and Rec, but it's the second Monday at 6 o'clock, I assume indicator,
Everest.
100%.
Lasts about half an hour, 40 minutes.
Brendan, you want?
Ready for Park and Rec then?
Sure.
Texas Park and Rec.
The only other question that I had regarding committees and so forth, John, you are on the IT committee. Correct. Rex was on there as a commissioner. You want to remain on that? Would you guys want to switch? Or would you rather just stay on it? It's up to you guys, Rich. I'd be willing to swim. It's very time consuming. It's every Thursday. It lasts about 3 hours.
3 to 4 hours.
Every day. I've been running into it. I got a full-time job. I don't do 4 hours every week.
You don't have to be on that committee, too. You can attend it if you're not on the.
Yeah, you can attend it.
I'd like to start making some of those.
Usually every Thursday at 8:30.
I'll take it. I'll get John. Reload them well.
So I think, unless there's anything we're forgetting, we've got Bob Rhodes Wage Appeals, we've got solid waste regs. That sounded bad. Solid waste. Park and Rec is Fred. IT committee regs. Okay? And then do you want to do, Julie, do you want to make the requirements under your time? Or
I said that's every month.
did you say you want to have paperwork?
Council,
Okay. Can you read off? Jim, do this individual.
sure.
So whatever you want to do, can you remind them that there are some of the votes with you?
Sure.
But you have your hand, yeah?
Sure. I have certificates of appointment, as follows. I would hereby propose Don Kuhn, as the Property Tax Assessment Board, term starting January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. Appoint Toby Sprunger as a member of the Alcoholic Beverage Board for a term commencing January 1st, 2023, December 31st, 2023. Myself, Julie Marie Brown, as County Council Attorney for a term commencing January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023, and I have certificates of appointment for all of those.
That we would just need a motion and second to approve those bills.
Okay. All the appointments as presented, need a motion to approve.
Kathy, Bob? Okay.
All those in favor?
I,
Opposed?
That's done.
Very good.
And then you have your, who needs to sign this, Julie? Just president?
Right,
Just
present.
Dennis?
Right.
Have a note to take pictures.
Bill Marshall.
And you'll also need to sign that.
And is there somebody to be appointed for the regional sewer district? Need to appoint somebody for
Yeah.
that.
Now, does that,
Somebody needs to sign too.
Yes.
yeah, I'll sign that. The regional sewer district, if you remember last month, Steve Bader had submitted a resignation letter from that. He had originally been the council appointment when he was on council, and we waited on afterward. But now he's commissioner, he doesn't, he wants to be the council appointment to do the regional sewer district, so we do need to appoint. What are those meetings?
They are monthly, the third Thursday at 3:30 p.m.
They'd be interested in that list. Yeah, still that IT board.
Second Thursday.
Because they have.
Second Thursday, 3 p.m. Second Thursday.
So after you sign them, Dennis give them back to me. Once I get their signatures, I'll get them back to Julie Marie as well. But they have to kind of. Sign.
We're going to meeting this Thursday, that's correct.
Did we get somebody for that sewer district? I volunteered. Somebody else went on, or we gonna just put John down? Okay, John. The road of the auctioneers, you bought it. Yeah, we got, John Summers is the regional sewer district appointment. I believe that covers the appointments and the committees, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. So
Thanks for your service.
then we're ready for the next, you better put it in. Get you there.
Okay. Shannon's already done.
We have minutes.
Yeah, they did the minutes. We just need, now the pickleball is the next thing up, so whoever is here.
Yeah, we did the approval minutes.
Right, yep, that's done.
Gentlemen from the Park and Recs for pickleball court.
Council, before they start, if you want to do any outdoor requests, including the ones that have been on there since August, we can do additionals on what was approved in February. For the ones that are approved, including this one or any others that would be approved. The alternative to that, I guess, would be to wait another month, discuss some of the other ones. And I had one originally in August, I am not doing that. Because frankly, we've been doing the work on the ARPA grants, so keeping all that already, so might as well keep doing that and not cost the county any support money in the years going forward. We'll just continue to do the work, so I'm gonna clear that one. But I think Julie Marie has, and I have also, the other requests that we have out there, so if you wanted to do all this together today, that's fine. We can get the additionals ready for next month. Sorry, stealing your thunder, gentlemen.
We're just here to answer any questions. I know this group and many others have worked on, are very active in pickleball in general. I don't know how many of you have ever played or watched anybody play. Pickleball is a very rapidly growing sport. Used to be in a lot of different communities, even around here. So we're looking at options, where can we put more courts? Where can't we put it?
So I was looking through this thing and sort of putting around everything, so we have a list of options, we don't have a full set plan yet, right?
We have a conceptual plan for Riverside.
So we're talking about that would be the first option, is Riverside.
The outdoor courts at Riverside where the same volleyball courts are currently.
And what
The
is
other
the price of that?
93 roughly, 93,000. Phil Smith put this together. I've got a couple extra copies. Would anybody like a copy?
Should have been mailed out to everybody, did you not get those?
You got it. If you want a paper copy, I've got a couple extra.
So the community center is owned by the city, right?
Correct.
And so is the city pitching any money for that?
Potentially, depending on what we come up with.
Honestly, I want to hear from them first, because it's their building. Honestly, in my opinion.
We went through the process and got approval.
Now, we have been to their meetings and they gave us the land, so to speak, where the sand currently is. We've gone out and tested the sand, how much there is, how much would have to be removed, the cost of it. There's already fencing there and some lighting. It just was a good fix. I guess nobody has played outdoor sand volleyball in several years there. So it's just,
A lot of our involvement, Fred, would be a lot of the actual work itself, but the prepping, the stone, stuff like that, doing a lot of the removal work and such with our own employees, so it'd be in-kind service. Now, we haven't really talked about, we need to put the torch in any funding because everything's just kind of been laid out there, kind of, with a little conversation between us.
There is so many people playing pickleball that a lot of us now go to Fort Wayne and play, or go to Bluffton and play. There's just so many. If you go down there right now, there's 14 ladies probably, or 15. Yeah. Yes.
half of them are sitting half are playing right now. And they rotate.
Because there's four.
Yeah,
There's usually.
yeah, and that's a different scope. That's a lot of high school kids now play. We're not even, including them, but they get a bunch of group together and they play. It's a sport you can play. I can play with my grandson, I could play with, and maybe not my mom, but it's a wide scope. That's really become popular.
And it can also be competitive. It could be tournaments, and we've had several.
We'd like to have tournaments, but you've got to have more courts to do that.
Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't hear everything that was going on. Julie Marie, I cannot open up anything on your computer.
Oh, sorry.
So you're planning on putting one at Riverside?
We're proposing to put actually 4 to 8 courts at Riverside. The drawing shows all 8. 4 would be enough for us now. 6 is what, if it continues to grow. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America.
Are you planning on putting any place else in the county?
At the Rev, they're going to turn 2 of the courts, and when they do that, there's room for a 3rd. But that is a separate deal. I know we're not really talking about that today. That money's already there for, it was $9,000, I think, just to pull the posts up and turn everything. Right now, they face the sun, which doesn't sound so bad, but for about 2 or 3 hours, you literally can't even see the people on the other side. You look right into the sun.
Okay, but at this time, there's no plan to put a pickleball court anyplace else, like in Monroe or
Not that I know of. And even Adams Central just built all new tennis courts, and they did not paint one pickleball court or line on all the asphalt.
Kathy, I do have an application out for the county
I
parks.
can't hear you.
Kathy, I do have an application out for the county parks with you guys with a lot of other improvements. That's something that could be implemented in the southern part of the county.
I know Geneva has a group that is looking to update their ball diamond, and I think pickleball is part of it. But I was just wondering, it's a long way to drive. I think it's a long way to drive. You have to drive for everything to come to Decatur.
Yep. And I think it's something that could take off in the south also. I really do. And we have plenty of
I
room.
know people from the south do come up here, but I'm just looking into the future. I just think that it should be spread out also.
We do have room in Lynn Grove and a covered bridge and stuff, parks.
Covered bridge.
To put something in there.
Going out.
And a lot of those, a lot of the pickleball and stuff would go hand in hand with a lot of the improvements that I'm already proposing.
Okay.
That you guys have, because there's areas that then all you have to do is paint off a section of it. Because there's a lot of parking lot improvements and stuff figured in those parks. That's very simple to then put a couple of courts on.
Thank you.
Would you be charging court time by way of,
How do you guys do that now?
Right now, they gave us the 3 indoor courts in the big room at Riverside, and we taped it meticulously, and it works. The ceiling's not high enough, but the roof is adequate. And there was no funds going on, and we just decided with Chris to start a donation. The first night, they suggested everybody put $1 in, and it raised $123. So the pickleball players are not, they are willing to chip in. They've talked about these projects. We've got guys that have said they could probably bring a loader bucket over to pull the posts out of the old one or to remove the sand. There's volunteers, usually 10, 15 people right away say, yeah, they would help. They would help with the labor.
so maintenance would be a function of Parks and Recreation?
Yeah, we would absorb the maintenance and the cost of that to the city, more likely city, county, so.
Which roads are now that maintain, it just depends on what they're maintaining.
What would your timeline for construction be
All depends on funding.
once it gets started?
Couple months probably, depending on the asphalt contractor. The asphalt.
That's the majority of the expense, right? Asphalt. Asphalt's the majority of the expense. There's some lighting there, but not enough to light out the middle, so there'd have to be a few light posts in the middle if we're going to go with lighting. There's also a kind of a natural windbreak now. The fence is already around the whole area, and there's several row of trees. So it's actually a neat little place to put the courts. It just fits and
Well, there's plenty of parking and there's restrooms.
there's talk about a pavilion or a little hangout area. There's, because pickleball is half social, half competitive. A lot of times when people aren't playing, they sit and wait for their game to start. Then they trade. A lot of trading going on. That's why the 8 courts, typically when we play, we need 4. We know 3 is not enough. We've had over 20 people waiting at Riverside last few evenings. And this has grown from last year. We got 40 people now playing, and that would be it. But we think it's gone down to 60, and it hasn't stopped. Once you start playing, it's not as aggressive as tennis. You can just go do it. You can take your family members. It just works out nice. People don't fall in love with it the first time they play, but the second, third, then they start coming every time. We didn't really say our name. My name's Bob Goulet. This is Brad Logan. I know most of you, but so we should tell you.
Could you state the amount that you're requesting again?
I believe it's 93. It's in the 93, right, Brad?
Yeah, that was the proposed estimates, but, them are 6 months old, so they can go up.
He's got an 84 on top of it for just the asphalt. But I believe 93 is the total.
The initial request was 50 to 75.
Yeah, that's,
The updated estimate was 93.7, but depending on the kind of service and stuff, it's.
We also have our own funds. We've not done anything too official, but when we have a tournament, it's usually $20 a person, and we get donated prizes usually, and we put that money in the bank. We've got over $1,200. And we've not done anything aggressive with the players. The players have always stepped up with whatever we've asked for. So
What kind of ongoing costs with maintenance, or do you have to staff the courts?
You do not have to staff the courts. Maintenance, you're probably 3 years repainting the court. Each court, which is a couple $100, $300-$400 probably.
Okay.
It's about it, really. So, if you break it out, it's maybe $100 a year
Okay.
per court.
Yes.
Now, obviously, if you have vandalism, limbs, or whatever, that's a little different,
So in total, I think you guys have 3 different requests. Does that sound right? You've got the maintenance and repair, that's 220,000. Fitness center equipment, that's 26 basically. And the pickleball courts are 75. Does that sound right?
Well, 75 is now 93 because costs went up.
Okay.
Phil had emailed, yes, I think Julie Marie was on that email as well, with the cost had gone up to 93 just in the past 6 months because of the cost of asphalt and everything else increasing.
To Kathy's kind of question, I guess, amongst all 3 of those, how much of that has impact on, Monroe and South? Or is all that indicated?
the 200 and the big one that I have in there for 2, whatever, is all south.
The 220s all South?
Yes, it's West Road, Covered Bridge. There's about 5,000 for miles.
Okay.
Majority of the parking lots, but that's it. The balance of it is there, and that's, in the fitness center in this building.
Okay.
For the flooring, rubberized flooring and such, so. So the problem you're getting into with your county parks, and I put in a lot of the letters, is there's a lot of liability. There's a lot of trip and fall. We haven't had.
Because of the pool definitions.
We need to bring those at ADA compliant. I hate to tell you the horror stories that you could have down there with liability. So Julie Marie, I've talked to her a few times. She understands completely what I'm talking about. So we don't have a lot of money coming into the parks department. We never have.
So in previous requests, there's already a Parks and Rec request for 75,000. Is this, does that get absorbed in that?
That's the pickleball.
That's this.
75, that's.
That's what you're saying now. It's gonna be updated expenses.
93,000 out there.
But I think Phil talked about something, we could get people to volunteer to remove the sand and maybe lower that cost too.
I think that could be lower, so
I'm so up to 93 essentially now.
Correct.
I've got it.
I'm very, very concerned with the county parks, with that 200.
We
I
have
know Rex is set on our board. As commissioner advisor.
The $220,000 isn't painting the bridge. You have that down as a goal. But the last time they painted that bridge, when they did, I think it was around $15,000.
Correct, and I talked to Randy last night. Randy's looking at a grant for that. Will it happen? I don't know. But Randy does have some, and it's right at like 14,000. He has some rough estimates. It also needs tightened up.
No.
The arch is out of the bridge now.
Sounds like he
The
just.
bridge is property of the commissioners. So we need to be communicating that also. So there is.
Yeah, because I feel like we're trying to get rid of this council stuff. And they have a problem because they're actually negative.
So
So
I think the way about that, 15,000 to tighten it up.
You want to
According to my experience.
No, I get more. So basically, it's because no, it's what we have to do. This was the whatever we should do. These trying to
we already approved that.
So I'm good at that.
So on the request list, there's Parks and Rec pickleball courts, it was 75, now it's 93. There's Parks and Rec fitness center equipment and the Parks and Rec maintenance and repair, that's the big one at over 220,000. I would make a motion to approve all this. So pickleball courts, fitness center, and park maintenance, I mean, they're here now. We have, I've looked at it, I've discussed with others, I mean, if you haven't looked at it, we've had this list for a while. So anyways, I make a motion to approve those three right now.
Are you, moving to approve at the $93,000?
The 93 instead of 75, yeah. And the park and rec, request, and the fitness center request, all three. Yep. Not sure what I told you.
Yeah,
Painting, or do you think that grant's gonna cover?
I don't know.
39
That's
cents.
still coming up.
What?
Should we?
Even the 220 though, is, I mean, that's not a hard line number because you have it for sure, right? So if you need something extra, you can come back to us, right?
I figured it will higher right now with inflation and with the fuel cost. You know, you talk to a paving contractor right now, and I bet you they're not even considering floating anything until we get a few more months into it.
Yeah. We just approved that, but it's right now, though, you can best later, I think.
Sure.
In my opinion.
And I'm not opposed to giving them money back. I just want to
Well, that brings the point, Julie, or I don't know if it'd be Julie, which one of you, but if we approve funds and then like you was just saying, if they don't need it, can we distribute it to that account? And then if they don't need it, they don't use it, or do we have to use the money to pay off the invoice or whatever? For example?
When we get the invoices in on an ARPA request, if they get done before it reaches that total that you approve,
Yeah.
it just remains on the ARPA revenues.
I guess what I'm wondering is like, okay, so probably not then, because they're cash flow negative in both their accounts. And we've been talking about that for a year or two now, is what do we do about that? The user fee fund and the tax rate fund. So is it possible that we can improve these, and if they don't need it, they can keep those monies to help give us a couple more years before we fix that?
You approve the 200,000, you can just take 200,000 out of ARPA and put it into their funds and they spend it however they want.
If I'll spend on this, well, I guess it would be that way. wouldn't it?
My reading of it is you have to actually use it. You can't set it aside and put it somewhere else. It has to actually be
I just wondered
spent.
if maybe we could get you a couple more years.
No, it has to be spent.
It gets filled out as invoices come.
Right,
up
it
to
is
the-
billed out up till that amount.
So I
Thank
think,
you, but
yeah, so I think the request there takes care of it.
And the total is $1,339.
I'll second.
Fred and Rex.
Moved and seconded to approve the request for funds as presented. All those in favor? Opposed? Let the records reflect now too.
Okay.
You guys have it done, like all that stuff done next week or so?
That's something that you guys
Or
want.
is this not one of those?
Just a yes or no?
I mean,
And you do this back and forth.
Sheriff.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know where that.
yeah.
Appreciate the support. I think we're gonna see some pretty good things. In the south, that's what my things are.
Thanks for your time with people. We did have one comment, Phil couldn't be here, because he thought the meeting was at night, and was gonna come. That's what he recruited us last night to come. He wanted some pickleball players to be involved when they lay it out and do it, and I don't think anybody had a problem with that, just to make sure something doesn't go the wrong direction or the wrong side, or there's not room to run back at the ball.
It's a good idea.
It doesn't take much extra room. The courts are pretty much 99% of where you play, so. He wanted to be somewhat involved in the layout, and how they.
I'm agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, you're good. Let's give you the best gig, so continue.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, thanks.
Just so you're aware, passed today the resolution for Parks and Rec, the total's gonna be 339 and 730. $339,730. So you've made the vote. I'll draft the resolution and it'll be signed next week, voted on and signed. It's taken care of now, next month, sorry. The reason we can't do it now is because it has to be advertised now that it's been committed. So that's what we've got. With the auditors having withdrawn theirs and the Council on Aging having had to withdraw theirs, what we have left now is the library request for premium pay in the amount of $17,000, the Health Department request for premium pay in the amount of $16,328, and Paws of Adams County requesting a new building, seeking $200,000. There's also a request by Buildings and Ground for a new roof that was specifically by consensus agreed to use ARPA funds for it rather than taking it out of the budget.
We just need to make that official.
I'm sorry?
We just need to make that official,
They
basically.
don't want to make it official yet. They wanted to wait to get the elevator done apparently, so they just want to.
I wasn't sure how much the cost would go up over time, every time it's ready, because they're going up so fast.
Because they're doing the roof first, and they're doing the elevator first, and they want to deal with that. So they want us to hold off on approving this until they have the exact figure, because they know that the delay will make it a little bit.
So, Stan, maybe you can answer that. So, they're sure they're working on that stuff. First of all, is that done or not?
I know the money was approved for it, I don't know where they are.
It's something that they can do right now. They've got the units installed on the roof and the units installed in the basement, but Trane can't finish up the final work on the chillers until the weather.
So, the main reason I was asking is because I knew there was stuff to figure out on the roof. And we did not want to do anything on the roof until that was done. So, is the roof good? So, honestly, if the gas prices keep going up, I mean, I don't know, I just wonder if we should find out what a hard price is on that, kind of get it, if the roof's got to be done, it's got to go.
They estimated $100,000 to $120,000. So.
He's got several estimates. I'm not sure if he's got those updated. But I know he was gonna go back to the same people and have them update their quotes on it.
Really need to buy materials and pay for the, set that up, and get it, kind of locked in.
If you want to get it out of the way, you could even go up and say 150,000, because if it isn't as Corey alluded to with his question a minute ago, if it's not that high, it's not like you lose some money or anything. It's almost like a revolving loan type thing where you spend as you go. Which also leads me to tell you that with the chiller, the generator, and the red house, when we get those claims in, Bree is keeping a spreadsheet on how much has been spent on each of those. Because this is a new year, we will have to do new additional appropriations for what's left on each of those projects. So if it was originally 300,000, there's 100,000 left, you'll have to do an additional appropriation this year for the chiller for 100,000 to get us through that initial cost because the ARPA revenues do not carry over. So when you see some of those additionals, that's why you will see them. So that we get that out there because those are going to be coming.
It's an accounting function.
So if you want to go ahead and, as you did with the Parks and Rec, allocate that now and we can make the formal resolution next month, that's entirely up to you.
I'd say we just do it for 100, and then if they need more, we'll deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a big deal, right?
No, it's
So let's,
been budgeted.
make a motion, I'll make a motion to approve $100,000 towards the roof. Get it off the books and get it going.
I think it's gonna be more than, I talked to Rick this morning, and he said, he thought he put it for 120.
Well, I'll make a motion to 120.
120.
We'll go from there.
You're going to hit 104.
John, did you second that?
I'll second.
The amended motion, there we go. So he's got a motion for 100.
So it's 120, and we're just right now approving the roof. We're not discussing the pause or the
Correct.
No, I think well.
I think we will.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
That's that right now. We're
We're
just,
just separating this from the roof. Okay, gotcha.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
Shoot, who's seconded?
John.
John. Okay. Yeah,
That leaves 3, right?
that leaves 3. And just so you know, with those 3, you're looking at about $2.5 million balance in the ARPA funds right now with the ones that you just approved.
You know, we'll often discuss those down the road.
I'm gonna have to really look for a lot of them.
The other 3? Yeah. I'm ready right now.
Yeah, they've been out there since August, and they haven't been. We're not there.
Why did, Council on Aging agree?
Because the city was contingent upon the city taking it as well.
Because the city owns their building and the city had to approve the proposed renovations that they wanted to make. They had actually had several meetings and even special meetings to discuss it and ultimately decided, I believe it was in November, that they were not going to allow it.
You have to say before we gave any money, that's not our point. Not that we wouldn't necessarily
It's a good point.
give to it, but we, you know, it's not our building.
Yeah, they
Right.
took that one off, so that one's done. And the ones you have now, I think the cause for 200,000 and the
The
library.
library for 17 and the health department for 16,328.
So, you know, I'm not, the premium pay thing, I just think opens up a lot of doors for other potential issues to some degree. We did vote in a nice raise, I think, for everybody this last year. And so hopefully, you know, that's appreciated. So, you know, for those reasons, I personally, you know, I would have to vote no to those. And while I think Paul's a great cause, at this point, I would have to say no to that, in my opinion.
That's kind of why I was just assuming wait later, I guess. Sorry if it comes in on the bill, but I'm not ready to purchase on any 3 of these. And I'm not ready to say completely no, even if we get to the end of this term and the funds are still there, then I'd be happy to get a tribute, but I don't want to say no, and I definitely want to say yes right now, but I don't want to say no.
I don't know if the funds are there at the end of the day, but it'll be fine with me, but I'm not really going to commit one way or the other.
I would agree with Fred on all three of those. On the premium pay in particular, I think this issue came up a couple of years ago during all the COVID. And yeah, the question was, we're opening a Pandora's box here, you know, so if we're gonna give them premium pay, then why don't we give the sheriff's department premium pay? Why don't we give, you know, everybody else premium? Yeah, exactly. So it's just, I mean, we decided against it then, and there wasn't other money at the time, but even with it, I think you're just going down a real slippery slope. So I agree with those two for sure now. We're on pause. I would also agree, we don't own pause, right? So I don't know if there's more that the commissioners that you guys know that we don't know in terms of really a charitable type organization.
The contracts that we currently have with the animal shelter and in Chad Springer catching animals that have been sufficiently addressing the needs for that service in the county. So I think they're offering good service for the money they're charging. And if there's other services that PAWS are providing, they've kind of been doing that outside of county.
I think I can speak for Stan here too. I mean, that's appreciated. Stan and I were involved in meetings with Paul's and then I think they, you know, have good intentions and do a nice job with a lot of things, but yeah, we kind of pay for a service for that right now. So, yeah, there have been no issues that I know of as far as Geneva, Bern, Decatur from animals not being picked up. Usually they get called what they call the police, and police come and go either come to their house, their location, or directly call and they're picked up and maintained. So with that, well, we got to officially vote on this, right?
You have to officially vote.
You make a motion,
to not approve it, not approve it, or table it.
I'll make a motion to not approve those three.
And I'll second that.
Moved and seconded to deny the request for ARPA funds as presented. All those in favor? Opposed?
I think that might cover the request for our direction.
That's everything.
So how much is left then? There's like two.
About 2.5 million.
Actually, we have 24.
2 minutes for that money.
I tend to agree. I kind of wonder, one thing that would be nice is if we could really.
I think we have plenty of capital opportunities for that money, and I mean, I'm sure there's going to maybe be some other improvement requests that we,
Remember, you have until the end of 24 to maybe plan for that money,
so we have almost 2 years.
and when the end of 26 to actually spend
It
it.
has to be spent.
You have to,
Would be really kind of a good, I don't know if it's the right idea, but an idea. I wonder if going into next year's budget, we don't look at all of the things that are in our capital budgets and basically just zero them all out and do them all over, on this side, so if they all qualify.
For 2 years.
Yeah, and then all our capital accounts just got a lot, now we've got room down the road for, for things that we need.
So we have to spend it. Not until 26.
Yeah, so if we do 24's budget, and it was basically all the capital items in 24's budget are coming out of ARPA money, then we're still getting receipts in all those capital funds. We're just not spending anything out of there because you're using ARPA to do it. So then you just raise your balance in all those accounts that might.
and you're going to have, Julie Marie is going to have to advise on whatever you end up doing with that, if it is indeed an approved use. Because that has to meet criteria, so.
A lot of things are meeting the criteria though.
It's pretty broad criterion, especially if it's something government related, government services.
Yeah.
I mean, that could go to help start the building that we're talking about needing, the judicial center or whatever.
Yeah, or even if it could be that, or it could be as simple as it just frees up all the capital funds so that we could use those for that type of thing,
Gives you a little flexibility.
I haven't seen any urgency in any of these requests by way of jumping in and spending the money without examining it. I think it's wise choices.
So far, I feel good about everything that we've come into, in my opinion, so.
And I think the applicants have been doing a very good job of completing the form, providing a lot of supplemental information, coming in and answering questions. So if they continue that, I'm sure it'll be fine.
What's next?
I have one other item. The auditor's office was advised by SGOA that they required a specific ordinance for governing the management and use of the petty funds throughout the county departments. So I researched and drafted that. I emailed everyone a copy of it. This just follows the standard requirements of the statutes and governs the necessity to track and itemize all petty cash accounts so that SBOA can properly audit.
For example, if SBOA, and I fully expect them to come this year because they did not last year. And the last time they came, they audited 19 and 20. I'm guessing they're going to come this year sometime before 2022. And what they do is they will randomly give Bree or myself, here, we need you to pull these. And if it's a petty cash type thing that has gone through us as a claim, that's perfectly legal and allowable. But they could also say, okay, can you show us your petty cash ordinance that county council has to pass? I don't know that we have.
We did not have one. We were doing everything the statute required, but the statute also says you need to have an ordinance. So this just makes it official.
Yeah.
So is this pretty standard?
Is it?
Yeah, it's a formality, really, just to make sure we're compliant with SBOA.
Motion to approve it? I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
I had a question as to how much they're allowed to have as petty cash. Did we set a limit by what they can maintain?
They're really fairly small amounts. I mean, and they have to follow the code and bring it through us. It's not like they got $1 million sitting in petty cash. It's like I say, this is a formality just to make sure. So if the Board of Accounts comes, we can point to the ordinance that we have. And not every department does it, but the ones that do have been doing it correctly. The way that the code specified is just that we did not have the ordinance to point to the county council has to provide. So I don't know that there's any certain amount or anything, but they're not going to let it go huge.
Have a motion and a second to approve petty cash funds by way of department
New resolution.
resolution.
It's a ordinance,
Ordinance, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
ordinance.
2023-1.
Is that correct?
That's the
First
first
one of the
ordinance.
year?
Ordinance?
I think it's the first one of the
First
year.
one of the year? Or have the commissioners done something?
Did you do one last week?
One of the resolution marked it last week, wasn't it?
Okay.
Pretty sure it was a resolution.
All those in favor? Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes everything that I have.
So, next, unless you want me to do the salary ordinances first, it's up to you.
Why don't you, this is the auditor's time.
I think somebody needs to make a motion to create a discussion.
When we do salary ordinance first, then we get it.
Yes.
I'm gonna go ahead and do my salary ordinances that you all have received. There was one that was still a 2022 amended salary ordinance for Trent Tumbleson. At 1985, he is new to the surveyor's office. They had lost an employee, so this is a replacement in the surveyor's office. And then the other ones were, correct me if I'm wrong, Bree and Shannon, but those are all replacements. Correct?
There's a
There's
couple
no-
of new employees because new positions were approved in the sheriff's department matrix during the
Okay.
hearings.
Maybe jailers or,
Dispatchers and deputies. And then, Tony, if I can interject real quick, Dan called me yesterday, Sheriff Dan, and he wanted to make you guys aware and have you approve hiring a new deputy at the deputy year one rate versus the probation rate, because that deputy is already merited and he's already been a police officer for 10 years. So you guys have approved those in the past, but he didn't want you to feel like he was throwing something under the rug.
That's the one that's in here. What's
Yeah,
the
it's
pink
already
one?
on there. Yeah, he just wanted the official approval out loud and on record. And his name is Josh Kimberlin. So he's on that.
That goes to the burn-off, so
Yeah.
school with me.
Yeah, I know. We have approved that before, so I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Sorry.
Okay.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed?
And then that is just for the deputy, right?
Yeah.
So now we will need a motion and stuff on the rest of the salary limits. Or if you have any questions, you can shout those out.
Make a motion to approve the balance of the salary ordinances. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I guess we're done with there.
Yes.
Give me 1 second. Salary. Who did the motion second on that one?
I made the motion.
John and Rex?
Rick seconded.
I'm gonna get to know voices pretty soon, and I'm always looking down. Rex, I certainly should know you're there every other week. Okay, I did not have any transfers or additionals. So salary range is what I had. So I think you might have to entertain a motion to reopen the discussion for the sale of the farm property. Is that correct, Jim Louis?
Need a motion to open property sale hearing.
Make a motion to open a property sale hearing.
Second.
Kathy,
Okay.
Freddie.
To open the discussion on the sale of the farm property.
Emails have been going out as information's been received. There have been appraisals. I sent you that information. Apparently, we're looking at the approximately 140 acres will go from anywhere from 14 to 15.4 per acre. The money can be put into rainy day and then utilized, earmarked or not earmarked from there. But I believe the commissioners are already in agreement to have the sale, so it's now up to the council. It has to be unanimous, a decision between both bodies have to approve it. A majority, yeah, a majority of both bodies have to approve it. So all is basically in your court as to whether or not this should be done. I also sent, for those interested, I believe that Ed provided it to me a couple of months ago and provided it to everybody else. I sent it out again. It's the interest rate that would be available for the money. We would have substantial returns on the proceeds from the sale to grow and use at a later date or whatever project seemed appropriate at the time. So just so you're aware as to what's at stake. Land prices, you never know about those, but I guess CD prices, you don't either, CD values. So with that, I would just defer to you to make a decision with regards to the land sale.
Discussion.
I would, I guess I'd say first and foremost, if it does sell, I'm still a proponent of keeping that frontage along 200 east. I think it's around 15 acres, just for future interest. Dang these things. Yes, everything in front of them, go through that, yeah, whatever, right? All the road frontage. I agree with that as well. And second, I'm still not sold on selling it right now. I'm selling it old value as a savings account. Those interest rates are pretty advantageous. It is a lot of money, but even $1,000 per acreage, which is not uncommon, that could be $130,000 a year versus, 76 or 86, whatever the percentage of the terms of these CDs. So, And like Jeremy said, it's all a gamble. It could go down 1,000 an acre too. It could start at 18 and go down to 15. It could start at 18 and go up to 20. And I still like the idea of having it. It's liquid. It will always be there. If we can find a way to specifically reserve it for a specific purpose, I'd be more inclined to sell it just so it doesn't get washed away in the general fund and disappears forever. Because we're never going to be able to buy it back. We're not. It'll be gone for 100 years. And it's gone. It's gone. Like I said, I'm not a wealthy person, but I do know the wealthy people are buying CDs, they're buying the land. It's a solid investment as far as investments go. But that's about all.
I definitely don't have a problem selling it, aside from that frontage. I guess I feel like it was kind of rushed at the end of the year. I mean, we didn't hear about it until October, November, I think, and so I would just like to make sure we have a good plan to do it right. So for this year, and even the next, if we still leased it, I don't think that's the end of the world, because we don't have any plans for the money right now. So we're just trying to rush something through. I just feel like it'd be better to lease for this year, but even if it's next, make sure we have our ducks in a row.
Fred, we did what you were saying, and I think Jeremy, I think you were included on the emails that State Board of Accounts in the office was doing regarding this, doing it by statute, by code, legal. And I think we said before, the sale of that property does have to go into county general. State Board of Accounts, rainy day would be one way because the accounts would have to pass an ordinance to get it out. But State Board of Accounts did say that once it goes into county general, if you had a fund that said courthouse or whatever it is, whatever that would be, you can put it in that and name that fund as to what the use is going to be. Now, that creates a situation, if you don't all agree on what that fund should be and what those money should be used for. If council is not in agreement or you don't have a majority on what you think those funds should be used for, if you don't agree with the commissioners that it needs to be the beginning of a project for the Superior Court or whatever, then the advice would be to put it in the beginning and make an ordinance have to be necessary in order to get that out. Did I say that correct?
I'm comfortable with all that. I just feel like we rushed through everything.
Yeah, that's the decision before you right now, is whether you sell it or not, really. And the rest, that's what we kind of.
I got no problem selling it, aside from the frontage.
How do the rest of you feel on the frontage issue?
I'm sorry, what?
How do the rest of you guys feel about the frontage issue?
Oh, I kind of expanded on what Ed had given to us. I gave you a hand now. Just making some projections, because I think from a commissioner standpoint, and Stan, you correct me if I'm wrong on this, we were looking to have money set aside for a down payment on the possibility of a new bond issue that would be coming down the road, because we know we got some major projects. So what I did was I just did some projections to extend them out to an 8-year program in case it used 8 years, and gave you some figures based on if we sold it at a certain dollar amount, we netted those proceeds, how would that grow over an 8-year period using 4.6% interest as a projection. I did a couple examples on that on sales. And then I did 3 projections on if you targeted a dollar amount, say, okay, we wanted $3 million at the end of 8 years, how much should we put in
every year, but say we didn't sell the farmland. We took and invested to rent, and then we added to that, let's say out of general fund, how much would it take to grow to $3 million at the end of 8 years? So those are the examples I gave you. If you want to look at them, ask questions about them. We were just thinking as commissioners, from a commissioner standpoint, that we wanted a good down payment to go into a program. Because we know we're going to have some major expenditures.
I think we do too. I think everybody does. Would want
I'm sorry, what?
I think everybody does. Everybody wants a good down payment. And again, I'm not opposed to selling it. I just want to make sure we have, everything, our ducks in a row when we do, do a good job with it. So whether it just feels like it's rushed right now. So if it's next year,
Yeah,
then
for instance, Fred, if we wanted to target $3 million and have it at the end of 8 years as a down payment, at 4.6, we'd have to set aside $280,000 on the general every year and put the farm rental income, add that to that.
yeah, I understand that.
And let it grow, yeah.
But the thing is, you don't, just like with the appreciation and depreciation of the property, we don't know that we're gonna get 4.6 every year either. I mean,
No, we did.
that rate's just got up to that.
Yeah,
That's just been years of.
but you gotta do something, you gotta project something out.
Right. So all I'm getting at, and honestly, I will say that, the rent value that we get right now is way under market. And whatever that process is, we're doing it wrong. But I feel like we should just lease it this year and then take this year to, if we sell it next year, I'm fine with that. Again, aside from the frontage, but, even these, because, we talked about the frontage from the beginning, and nobody's even presented the fact of keeping any of that. And I know right now we have no plans for it, but we have 2 facilities out there that are county facilities. And it just seems like a good idea to at least have that strip of land, for anything that may come up that right now that we don't see.
What if you just reserved an easement instead of a full-fledged ownership? That way you have the right to use it if you need to for running anything, but you can still get the value of the land out of it.
They can't build on the easement.
You need to build on it, correct? But you can put stuff in there. If you need some underground, you need stuff right in between them, power lines, whatever you need. But yeah, you're right, you would build on it.
Yeah, the same reason, but that's why I'm not selling the land by the jail, because there's some potential use for it down the road in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why not sell that too? I mean, sell all the land we own.
Because the land by the jail is right here in Decatur. It's the most logical place to put like the Superior Court. It's not logical to put the
Potentially
Superior
useful.
Court across from the county home
Potentially useful, what you're saying?
Yeah.
in town.
Right. When
I don't see that
That's why
we
it was
have any
potentially
difference of
useful.
opinion in another year.
But I mean, I'm okay with that. I mean, it's not that big a deal, but.
I think part of that by the jail, I think could be sold, especially that on the south side, it's mostly woods and recreation land. I think you could survey off part of that, sell that, and maybe sell part of this, keep part of the farm, income producing farmland instead. Only sell part of this, sell that recreational land off south of the jail that you're never going to use, you're never going to develop. You still got what you want to develop around the jail.
I wasn't suggesting selling it, I was just.
That's not, that's another option.
Yeah.
Because that's something I've thought about.
My concern was lacking the ability to create a specific account for the proceeds of the sale. How are we going to identify how much money that earns if it's just thrown into the general fund?
Well, I think, I'm honestly, it would take an ordinance to get it out of there.
Yeah, I agree. Then it's kind of stuck away.
Then,
I think you would have to adjust like you're meaning earning interest on it.
Yes.
I think, Julie Marie, won't we have to adjust the interest resolution because the interest is gonna go back to county general.
Right.
So if you want the interest to go with that money in that fund, you would have to redo the thing, the ordinance resolution for it to go in that. So it'd be another fund that we would pay interest to.
Right.
But then
Yeah.
you're taking interest away from your general fund too.
Well, you're just putting what it earns, right? So it doesn't have it right now. So I think that would be fine.
Yeah, I'm all for selling it, I just want to make sure it goes to the right place. I'm not concerned with the project, just that it gets put towards that project that it's being sold for. I don't think that's a problem.
I don't. So I don't know, just to keep things moving, I guess, if I make a motion to sell the whole thing, I guess then if there's a second, then can we discuss maybe amending that if you guys want to, for keeping that frontage, or just want to keep things moving because we've been talking about it now for like 3 months. So I'll make a motion to sell the whole thing, just open it up, I guess, and kind of get this done.
I would rather approve a motion that says keep that frontage.
Okay, do you all agree with that? Is everybody else agree with it? You want to keep the frontage?
He made a motion.
What did Fred
We have
say?
a motion.
I would include in the motion to keep the frontage. That's in front of that ditch or.
And I'm okay with amending that, everybody else agrees.
I'll second the motion.
Kathy,
I think it's necessary to keep that frontage. So what's the motion?
Frontage is that part
We
of the
can,
motion?
I had said sell the whole thing, but if you guys are all in agreement to keep the frontage, I don't care that much. So I guess I'm asking. Do we have frontage or not?
They'll have to have an easement because it's landlocked,
Yes.
but that's not a big deal. You're good with 30-foot easement off one side or
Okay,
the other.
yeah. So your motion is to sell it?
Not at all, but if you guys are all in agreement that you want to keep it, I don't mind amending that motion at all. So right now, the motion is sell it all.
Second your motion with the amendment.
Okay, so, I'm fine to amend it, so I'll make the motion to amend it by keeping the frontage.
Okay, got it.
I think that's kind of where everyone's going.
did you catch that?
So I don't know what you guys think, but
Everybody-
how much frontage are we talking about?
I just did a Google thing around it, 14, 15 acres.
Everything in front of the ditch there around Golden Meadows.
Does that mess up anything with,
Yeah, we're just gonna plan on leasing it. Because if we keep the frontage on there, it's gonna very much restrict the sale of that property. And as far as getting services out there, if we ever do anything different with the Golden Meadows home, it's not gonna be at that site. So, if that's your condition, which really would be our decision anyway, whether to include the frontage or not, we probably would just not sell it. I mean, that's okay, if that's what you feel, that's the way this body feels. But as far as commissioners, I think we would just probably keep the land and get another farm use.
What's the useful life left in that Golden Meadows?
5 years ago?
Yeah, that's a good question, but I guess the solid waste owns the facilities in the ground to the north. Obviously, the county owns the farm adjacent to that. But as far as any additional or replacement facilities for the county homes, it would not go there. It would go on the ground, south of town. So as far as that frontage ever being useful for county facilities, I don't see it. So, but if that's your motion and that's the way you feel, then we're kind of dead in the water as far as selling.
So can I retract my second?
Yeah.
I'll remake my original motion then. I think we sell it without the frontage. Because it sounds like doing the other way, it's basically saying no, so let's just decide, I guess, yes or no.
And I don't want to speak for Steve and Steve, so please feel free to
Steve.
speak up. Right?
No, I feel the same way with Stan. We were just having a discussion as you guys were discussing that.
So, but I mean, as far as trying to keep that 14 acres of frontage, I think he was severely hurt about it.
So Corey, your motion is to sell all.
Mhm.
If it's severely hurt farm, I don't understand how that would happen.
So.
But how could
I want to know how it will work.
how would that hurt severely?
Potential buyers would buy that with the prospect of having that frontage.
With 2 county buildings on it?
That's one county voting, right? We don't own,
You're right, who's got, Nobody's gonna put a housing addition behind it, that's for damn sure. And maybe across the street, maybe.
So far, I think.
Where we're at right now. Not necessarily.
Motion to sell the whole thing, you seconded there.
Second.
Yep.
Further discussion?
We're at an alternate.
2, 3, 4, 5, I should have 6.
Still have.
I think we're.
Go ahead, Steve.
Well, Corey just made another motion, but you're still on that first motion. You got
Yeah, Corey changed his motion to sell it all. I don't know if you got a second on that. Next second on that?
That was up for discussion, and that's when I.
It's up for discussion.
What did you ask, John?
Just where it's going, that's okay.
They want to discuss.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm selling it, except for that frontage. I guess I'm flexible on that, if that's a hang up on the entire thing.
I think it'll hurt to sell.
They always.
Okay, I don't think so, I disagree. But anyhow, that's not what I'm getting at.
I see us using it.
No, but anyhow,
I guess that's what my discussion. I don't ever see a use for county facilities on that 14 acres. So for those two reasons, I think that would have to be sold.
my only thinking was expansion for mainly the transfer station. If we get to.
They own that whole farm.
Okay,
They can expand till,
pretty close.
they can expand right away.
They don't need it.
Plus, they own ground now on 33, so they are land rich.
Okay,
The solid waste district.
my main contentions would still be, the commissioners are working on a plan. Let's get that plan formulated, push this off for a year, they can run it and sell the whole thing at a specific date. We can put the date in next year, January 2nd, or whatever, December 2nd, then they can take possession.
Definitely gonna get higher, nobody knows, but I would be surprised if you get better values next year than you get this year.
That's why I want to hold on to it.
I'm saying you'll get worse values next year. I'm saying you'll get worse values next year.
Land values, we felt were very favorable for us right now. And then with interest rates coming up, that may affect land values, but, like Bob said too, you always have to figure appreciation for land. So, that's not to discount what could happen with value. I mean, it could be 50,000 next year. I mean, that very well could be, we don't know. So, that's, but, I guess I looked at it like currently last year, we made about 36,000 in land grant, which we could improve on that. We could do a better job as commissioners to improve that. But if we took, let's say if we got between $2 and $2.4 million from the sale of that land, we could invest that and move closer to 150,000 probably, on the return. So that would be something that we would be missing out on for 2023. So we can certainly do that. We can put it off a year. And like John said, we don't have a specific plan, but I'm working real hard to be in cooperation with our judicial partners, plus council, to develop that. So that's one thing I learned from Doug Baldwin when we started the Superior Court jail program. He always was very insistent on working hand in hand with council, and I always appreciated that. And I guess I would have every intention of doing that to develop the direction move forward. So
I do think it's important to decouple, I guess, unlink the sale of it with what we're doing with the money. Because to me, it's that is a big discussion, you know, and I don't know what that's gonna be. Maybe, I don't know if I'm gonna be in favor of it or not. I don't really know at this point. So to me, I don't really wanna look at it like, this is so that we can build 10 building, because I may very well be against that. I might be for it, I don't know yet, but to me, this is more just about where can we get better return for our money in the meantime while it's sitting. And I think we can get more money liquid, lock it away, so we don't just use it, but without it.
That would help. The reality is, you know, we're both driving down two lanes.
Exactly.
And we're going in the same direction. For our lane is to manage the county land and infrastructure. Your lane is to manage the money. So, you know, we are looking to do the best thing we can, for county infrastructure, responsibilities we have. And once the ground sells, then it's in this lane as far as I'm concerned. Because if we develop a plan on any reconstruction or remodeling of old judicial facilities, I want to do it together.
So do we have a bottom dollar?
It has to bring a very value, is that correct?
Yes, well, at least, yeah,
It has to, at least.
there's the reserve.
Appraised value.
Mhm.
And on bringing it 1 year, I don't know, and Bob might be able to tell us if you're gonna get a lot more money for 1 year than you would a 3 year, am I right, Bob?
It honestly depends on who's interested in that money for land. I mean, you could, you know, I think you would be fairly close between the three. I mean, 1 year might be a little less than a 3-year lease, but, you know, I still think it'd be substantially close. I mean, because you can give the guy some little protections. You can write it as a 1-year evergreen. You know, so it had with a 3-year thing, but every year it has to come up for discussion whether we want to sell or not. If not, he knows he has the lease for a 3-year period, a 3-year expiration. So you can kind of give the guy a little protection now.
Yeah, if it was mine, sure, I wouldn't sell it unless I needed those funds to.
In a matter of procedure here, John, did you want to amend Corey's motion?
No, well, I still have some special rule. So appraisal 1 has it all, so you can get 15.4 an acre. Appraisal 2 has it sectioned off, basically across the road from each other. One 14, a little over 14, the other one 15 even. So it's around $1.
Do we have to take the average of appraisals or take the lowest?
I think it's average.
So on the Gold Meadow side, it's roughly a little over 14.5 is what our $5 being on the opposite side to be 15.2.
Yeah, it's the other thing. And I'm not trying to create an emergency, but, when we look at the ARPA money, is if we develop any kind of a plan within the next 3 years for facilities, that ARPA money could also be combined and applied.
Well, honestly, that's what I'm kind of thinking on, at least some of it, I'm hoping, to be honest. So,
So, you know, but believe me, I'm not trying to create an emergency artificially at all. I'm just kind of trying to think through this process in my mind.
that's why I was going to push it off and at least give a date, a firm sale date next year. Because I guess I'm gambling on the increase in value versus the interest rate. It sounds like you guys are ready to sell, so anything you do is a gamble. You don't, we don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, that's what I said. How does these CDs that's 4.6%? So how does he get 1.5, 2 years or something? You can get 3, 4, 5 years.
I don't know. You know what, as long as people are running 12 and 18 month specials. Yeah.
So we don't get 4.6 for 1 year.
12 and 18, so that's what the specials are.
I'll call for the question.
But there again, this is where it'd be nice if Ed were down here because Ed's working within some real narrow parameters as far as how many this kind of money on this way. But he also does a very good job of researching our best options. So
Right, I mean, I understand that.
he's a good person. involved.
But, you know, you talk about the gamble, so it could be 4.6%, could be higher, could be lower. I mean, for years here, we just went out, you couldn't get a CD over 1%. Over 0.5%. So when we talk about, you know, a big return on that, I mean, that would be very short lived.
If it goes up at 12,000 an acre, if it goes up $1,000 an acre next year, that's 8.33% return.
Well, it's not at 12,000 acre now, it's at 14.5.
And at $20,000, that's a 5% increase in return. Or 5% return. So at the highest sale value.
But again, the gamble is there, you know, if interest rates go up,
Yeah.
then land values could go down.
But I'm just throwing it all out, it's just math.
So I guess it's there, as far as commissioners being responsible for county property and infrastructure, we don't want to be farmers. We have responsibility to, you know, to provide a healthy environment, good infrastructure to encourage county residents and businesses and the judicial system. So those are our responsibilities as county government. So when we look at, well, if it was me, I would hang on to the land. Well, you know what, I don't mind owning the land either personally, but as a county government, I'm not sure that's where our responsibility is.
540 acres.
Your county government. So we have some statutory responsibilities that if we don't take care of them, nobody else.
Sell all of it.
So that's, I guess, what I'm thinking.
Right.
What is my responsibility as a commissioner?
We have a motion and a second to sell the farm property at Meadows. All those in favor? Opposed?
Caveat, I just want to sell it next year.
Yeah. Well, that completes a long chapter.
What was the road count on that?
42.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I voted with it, I still don't know that I'm completely comfortable with it.
Well, and like I said, you know, as we proceed with the sale of the land, you know, we will endeavor to get the best value and handle it as efficiently as we can. And then once that happens, then it's in your court. Then it's in general fund, and then it's up to you to decide what to do with it, if you want to protect it. But like I said before, I want to continue working together in this restoration council.
Well, we've done this.
Okay. So, I misunderstood.
Any other comments, Dan?
I don't know if we have any. I guess I kind of still have a question on ARPA funds instead of approved. In discussions with our attorney, Mark, we were kind of talking about approving ARPA funds, and one of the comments that he made, I hate to use those comments as a legal, but we talked about, you know, approving ARPA requests jointly, and so like if there's a request, like say for the library and stuff that is just strictly financial, you know, that's definitely something that falls into your court. But if ARPA requests come forward that involve infrastructure, buildings, property, I guess I would certainly appreciate if those requests would come before us. Because, you know, we are responsible, you know, like Jeremy said, it's our grid, we're responsible for the grid. So I guess I would appreciate it if it's okay to have a part in approvals that involve property and infrastructure. So if that's something that will be agreeable, I guess.
Very true. That's a tricky way to work, but you're absolutely right.
Well, and like I say, when we went through the request for, the chillers, the generator, the elevator, we approved those as commissioners and brought it to you. It was kind of a joint decision. So, as people come to you with requests that involve infrastructure, I guess I would appreciate that same reciprocal consideration to say, hey, we're okay with spending the money, but you need to talk to the commissioners as far as the property infrastructure.
Jim Marie, is it a general that if a group or whoever's in charge of whatever building, if they come for us and it gets approved, they can say no.
Correct.
Okay. So it's almost necessity that they go to
The
do that.
fiscal body determines how and if any monies are doled out, but ultimately it is the commissioner's decision as to any major infrastructure, capital acquisitions or improvements.
Yeah.
So even if an ARPA money fund was made in county council, if the commissioners didn't approve of that, it could potentially be vetoed. So we've been doing it backwards. You have the ultimate veto power, but the purse strings are still held by the fiscal body.
Yeah, sure. And I think in the spirit of good governance, that's how we work together. And so just like the request that came forward here, and I don't know, part of it involved infrastructure. I guess I wasn't privy to that whole request. But, that, to me, that's just good governance for us to work on decisions.
It's infrastructure.
I hate to say, would you be the one in charge to, if Brad comes and wants to put up a new building or, whatever, does it go to you first, I assume?
It goes to the auditor's office and then he forwards it to me, but I believe Tony sends a copy to the commissioners also.
Okay.
So the only thing that might have fallen through the cracks was this pickleball thing, but I thought they were made aware of it.
I thought I saw commissioners on the
pickleball thing has been on the request.
And I thought that,
So maybe coming to our meeting too, right? I'm not sure.
but
So in general, how do you guys feel about the kind of idea of trying to somewhat target the more capital things that are maybe already in plan? So not necessarily going out and looking for brand new big huge topics, but trying to find things that maybe were already capital things that need to happen. Spend that with ARPA so that our normal capital funds can get a little bit bigger. Does that seem like a decent strategy for you guys, or what do you think about that?
I guess I don't look at it as, hey, we've got this whole pot of money, how are we gonna spend it? I look at what are our facilities, what are our responsibilities, and how are we gonna fund it? And if we've got the ARPA money available, to me, that's a good way to relieve the pressure off the general fund or CUNY funds. So I guess looking at the pot of money and saying, okay, how are we gonna shell that out? I would rather look at it the other way and say, look, we need to update security, we need to update information. Okay, so then it becomes a project that's necessary and we can justify how. So I guess that's kind of how I would, rather than, hey, we gotta get rid of this money. So, but yeah, anytime I think we can use ARPA funds to relieve the pressure off general fund and CUNY funds,
so now realize, as you've been aware in the past, if you zero those CUNY funds, it doesn't, the money is still coming in. All that means is,
I'm not spending it.
well, if any is spent, it has to come before you guys as an addition, which would not be extra money, it would just be needed to appropriate it, but that there is the possibility of more things coming in front of you guys for approval. Just wanted to make sure that you realize that. So, I don't know.
just kind of moving it from the savings account to the checking.
Yeah, I mean, it just has to be done the way State Board says it has to be done. As long as everybody knows that, then.
Like big capital projects really have right now being paid out of this.
Well,
We nickel and dime.
I think it needs to be,
Like if one of the courts is buying books, like one of the, I think Circuit Court pays a monthly renewal fee out of their cap line. And you're not gonna wanna do that to ARPA, are you?
No, we're talking about,
There's not.
actually, I think we zeroed the Cume Court fund to we have nothing budgeted out of it this year. And one of the reasons to do that is exactly what we've been talking about, is so we have a down payment and more money towards, we know we're gonna have larger capital projects coming in. Because, we've talked about Superior Court and whatever else is out there.
So Cume Court's already zero, nothing's gonna come out of it, so you
Right.
can't with the ARPA. Cume Jail, the only thing budgeted is.
But actually, we're not even just out of ARPA, we actually moved all the Cume Court stuff into the general fund. Because,
What happened in Cume Court? We haven't used Cume Court for like 2 years.
there was some proposed budgeted money out of that, we had that last year, for this year, and we moved it to general.
Okay, but it hasn't been used, so there's no, there was no
Right.
big projects. Cume Jail is only budgeted for one of the payments, I mean, that was the only thing that was there. And then Cume
Again,
Campus,
Again, the reason those funds were there is to accumulate money for the large capital projects. And yeah, we don't have it at this moment, but we know we're going to. And so instead of bleeding them dry to where there's virtually nothing there, they started saying their purpose too for having this money is for that. Well, we have those Cume funds for that as well. And so if we can, now next year, maybe we have to reverse some of that. But that's where looking at the budget on a year by year basis, I believe that's what we need to do instead of, instead of micromanaging the budget. Okay, this is what the number is. Where's best to bring that money from? And if we can get it out, accumulate money in those Cume funds for these larger projects that we know are coming, I think that's the thing to do.
and some of that you already did with the chiller, the generator and all of that, because that would have been capital improvements out of the.
That's as well, that's ARPA money, where we can't use the ARPA money we have, but we do.
So that helped that. I think the last big capital project we had was the jail. And it sounds like the next big capital project we'll have is the Superior Probation, Community Corrections and all that. So that should be, if you come up with a 5-year plan or whatever together, it should be that, whatever you want to call it. But that's what you're gearing towards.
Yeah, and that's something we talked about, a lot about that, and that's something we need to do is come up with that plan.
Yeah.
It was awesome, though, like I said, I thought there was an ARPA request on there first. Superior Court, right? Yeah. There was.
And I think
They sent in, they had never formally sent something in. The judge got it. Yeah, the judge got.
Yeah, so he's looking for the
grant. And then he later got a grant, he just said, I probably will if I can't get it done.
For me, that's definitely a building that has a lot of questions around it. And, to spend county money on it, several $100,000 and then turn it around and it might go away. I don't like that plan. So we have to have a plan to know what we're gonna do with it before we stick any money.
To your point, I think I'm looking at the budget, I think there's over 3 million in Cume accounts that are being budgeted to be spent. So there's still stuff that we could send.
Cume Bridge, and you can't do anything.
You got, that's 1 point a little bit, but you got another 1.3. So there's stuff we can look at, and if we can spend any of that, it just lets those balances get bigger, so when the big ones come, we have a savings for them.
And hopefully our bond is less at that time then. So if we have this money from the sale of the land, we've accumulated money in our Cume funds and, we're fortunate enough to make a time frame to use some of the ARPA money. I mean, who knows if we can meet that time frame? 26 sounds like a long ways away, but, in these larger projects, there's a lot of development that goes into that stuff and it can take time.
Are there any other matters to be brought before us?
Yeah, the rates that we need to reallocate. We're supposed to start in March, looking at that? No. It'd be probably March or April, but.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure it's still, on the table and ready And then said that Darren Bates is already planning to come here. He said the best time would be next week, but I'm going to be able to discuss what is it, what happens, all that stuff.
All right, I just want to make sure we're, whatever,
This is the allocation of the income tax.
Yeah.
And who was that guy? He's from the LGF.
Darren Bates is the guy, he has data center. He's the guy that was here at that one council meeting. He's over that $1 million, I think, 7 all these are genius. So.
So we've had a good start to a new year. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Kathy.
Catherine, Bob.
All those in favor?
all right.
Fran, Corey.